All right. We are on the perception chapter, and we ended last time in talking about Gestalt. And we talked about how the concept of Gestalt is summed up basically in one sentence. The sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts. We talked about an illustration of Gestalt being the Beatles. That the Beatles, as a group, set world records, changed the world in just about every category that we could name. The music industry, movies, fashion, hairstyle, financial, spiritual, the drug culture, morals, morality. Just about everything you could think of, they changed in the 60s. They broke up in the late 60s, early 70s, and each one went their own way, and each one was extremely successful. But if you totaled up all of their successes individually, it paled what they did as a group. And so the sum of the whole was greater than the sum of the individual parts. Well, in talking about Gestalt, there are several things I need to illustrate. And before I do anything else, I've got to make two things. We're going to be talking about several concepts of Gestalt: figure ground, proximity, similarity, inclusiveness, continuation and direction, and closure. Now, Gestalt, this is an approach to psychology, an area of psychology that concentrates on grouping principles. And that when you see something, how your mind processes it, and all the individual parts, how it brings them all together to see the image that you're perceiving. An example, figure ground. When we're talking about figure ground, the focus point will be the figure. The background is the ground. So, if we're talking about, say, looking at this, if I point that out and say, okay, everybody, look at this object. This is the figure, because that's what everybody's focusing on, and everything else is the ground. Okay? Now we get complicated, because we have what's called ambiguous stimuli. And the picture will change depending on what you're focusing on. If you see this, some people are going to see a vase, and the black will be the background. So other people will see two faces with the white being the background. If you're looking at the vase, that is the figure, and this is the ground. If you're looking at the faces, then that becomes the figure, and this becomes the ground. Now that one's easy to perceive, and most everybody can switch their focus and see both images that I was showing. But let's get into this one. Is this an old lady, or is this a young lady? Okay, you see the old lady. Okay? How many see the old lady? Nobody? first of all, you've got to think of the word old hag. Old hag. And this is an eye. This is a bump on her nose. This is her nose with a nostril. This is her mouth. Comes down. This is her chin. Her hair is, oh, these are her wrinkles in her face. Her hair is this way, and she is looking this way. I see one person that sees it now. Okay? You're still not, nobody else is seeing it yet. You're seeing it. Are you seeing it yet? Okay, you see it? Okay, what about you? You're seeing it? Okay. How many are not seeing it? 1, 2, okay? Now, if I'm not mistaken, who has run off the slides for this thing here? Nobody? Okay. First of all, if you can imagine this hidden, you might be able to see the eye. Okay? She's wearing a hat. The streamers are going down this way. She's looking down here. She's got a real sharp chin. She's an old hag. She's got her chin buried like this. No neck is showing. Let's see what else I can show you. Because if I have a picture of it, oh. Maybe I can do it this way. Here it is in color. Might see it a little bit better here. Here's her bangs. Here is her nose. She's got a fur coat, and she's got her chin buried right here. This is her mouth. Her eyes still got a little bump on her, and this is kind of a shawl. Are you seeing it yet? Yeah. Okay, you're seeing it? What about you over there? Have you, okay. So you can see that, you know, you can shift your focus and change the entire picture. Did you see it? Okay. Now, how many do not see the young girl? Did everybody see the young girl? Do what?
My main focus went to the older woman.
Okay, so if you're looking for the young girl, she's looking completely away from you. This is her ear. This is kind of a little necklace or brooch. She's got kind of a low, not a low cut dress, but it's got a kind of a U-shaped blouse on. And like I said, she's looking away from you. And these are not bangs. This is her hair style that goes all the way down. Now, does everybody see that? You don't see it yet. Okay. Is anybody not seeing that? Okay. So depending where your focus is, then everything shifts, and it can actually become two different pictures. But when it shifts, the figure is going to shift and the ground is going to shift. Okay? Another principle of Gestalt, and we're not going to talk about all of Gestalt, all the principles, but just some of the major ones. It's called proximity. Proximity, the closer objects are to each other, the more likely they are going to be perceived as a group or a couple. Okay? So, here, if you look at this, most of y'all will probably see 5 groups, 5 pairs of X's. Now, I dare to say very few of y'all probably looked and said, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, there's 10 X's. Because you counted them individually. Because they are grouped as pairs, you saw them. See, there's a space between each one of these. So these are perceived as pairs. And instead of looking at them individually, you saw 5 groups of 2 instead of 1 group of 10. Yes?
I mean, if you like the background of which is white, it's like the tables thing too also. I think the tables.
The table.
Like the tables, like each one, like the X, like the background is white, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it can be seen as like tables.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, let me give you, that gives me another example. Let's say that y'all have a student union here, and it's a real busy time, and you go in, you've got a few minutes extra, and you go in, you're going to have a Coke, and you sit down at a table. All right? You come in, and there's no other tables, but you see her, and she says, well, come on, there's room at this table. All right? Now, a few minutes later, you come in. And you look around, there's no seats, and they say, come on, sit at our table. Now, I walk in, and I think, isn't that nice? We've got 3 friends here that have come in, and they're all studying psychology together at this table. And they all must have a study group together. See, because all 3 of you are at the same table, I can perceive you as a group that came in together, that belonged together, simply because you're grouped together. It didn't dawn on me that you may have come in at 3 individual times. See, I saw you as a group. Am I getting through to y'all? Okay, okay. Because I see some blank stares. Here, you could see 12 dots, but it's easier to look at that and say I've got 2 groups of 6. See, these are grouping principles, and because they're close to each other, the ones that are close to each other are perceived as a group that belong with each other, and therefore you're going to say, I've got 2 groups of 6 here instead of 12 individual dots. Okay? Now, we look at this picture. They're very, very close together. He's got his arm around her, and you say, look at that, that's a couple. Now, here, there's a space between them. Now, they both don't look happy, so we could say they just broke up, but they are not perceived right now as belonging with each other. They're not perceived as being with each other. And if you walked in to this hall and you'd never seen them before, you would not assume that they are a couple. You go into a hall, you've never seen them before and seen this, and you're going to say, there's a cute little couple. Because the closer you are, the closer things are, the more they're going to be perceived as belonging with each other, and therefore, you group them together. Okay? we got 6 people there. Now, I doubt very seriously if 6 people came to those steps and they decided, I think I'm going to sit by this guy, and 6 strangers deciding all of a sudden just to sit in 3 couples. We look at them, we say, those look like 3 couples, not just 6 individuals that happened there. Then we've got a thing called similarity. With similarity, similar objects are going to be grouped together. They're going to be perceived as a group. All right? Here, if I say, what have I got here? You're probably going to say squares and triangles, not 8 geometric forms. Okay, you starting to understand? Okay, because I'm not getting a lot of feedback by your eyes. Okay, if I'm at a Razorback game and the ball is snapped and I see 22 men all of a sudden converge and get in a big pile of flesh, and then all of a sudden one guy emerges and starts running down the field, and I say, look at that Razorback running. Now, I know he's a Razorback because he's got a red jersey on, and I've got 11 guys on the field with red jerseys that have Razorbacks on the back. So I'm going to perceive that he is a Razorback because he's dressed similarly than the others. When Chris and I went on our honeymoon, we were in Hawaii, and he was on the balcony, and I came out and we were kind of laughing because they had 3 people there that had little banners. And this one person walked up on the curb of one area, and she held up a banner of yellow. And then all of these people just started coming out from nowhere, and they all had yellow t-shirts on, and they all grouped with her. Another one had a red banner. And all of a sudden, all these people from nowhere just started converging on her with red t-shirts. And then another one had blue, and the same thing happened. Now, looking from the balcony, we knew those 3 groups, they were 3 groups of people with 3 different colors. And we knew that because they were all dressed similarly. And we said, I bet you those are tourist groups. And they know they've been told to get here at a certain time, and now they're rounding up everybody. But we knew that they belonged in this particular group and this particular group because they all had the same color t-shirt on. Now, we know these guys here belong on one team, these guys here on another. Why? Because they've got the same uniform. They're dressed similarly. Now, same thing, we could say that we've got squares and circles there because we are, even though they're separated from each other, we look and we say, look at the circles, look at the squares. See? And so now there's too many. We're not even going to be counting these. We're just going to identify we've got circles and squares there because you are grouping all the circles together and all the squares together, and in your own mind, you're separating them as 2 groups. Inclusiveness. I have a square here. How many squares are you seeing in that drawing? Do what?
9.
You see 9, okay?
3 sets.
Do what?
3 sets.
3 sets, so that would be 9.
10.
Do what?
10.
10. Okay. Anything else? Nobody else? There's 14. Okay? Y'all got the 9 right off. 3, 6, 9. Well, then here's the 10th. Here is the 11th. Here's the 12th. Here's the 13th. Here's the 14th. Because, as the definition says, the identity of smaller figures can be lost within a larger, more complex figure. Let me get this out of here so you can get that definition. The identity of smaller figures can be lost within a larger, more complex figure. That's inclusiveness. Then the next one, there it is. It's called good continuation and direction. Now, I want you to look at this figure right here. Take a look at it. What do you see in that figure? Don't look at this one over here. I want you to look at this one. Just tell me what you see.
A diamond.
Okay, a diamond. What do you see?
A square and a diamond.
Do what?
It's a square and a diamond.
A square and a diamond, okay? What about you?
Diamond between 2 lines.
A diamond between 2 lines.
It kind of looks like a rope, but like in the middle has the diamond.
I wish that we didn't have masks.
I said it looks like a rope, but it has like the diamond in the middle.
It looks like,
A rope, like whenever you try.
oh, okay,
But
okay,
it has the diamond in the middle.
okay. What about you?
2 lines and a diamond.
2 long lines and a diamond, is that what you said? Okay,
2 long lines.
okay,
2 lines and a diamond.
okay.
2 lines and a diamond.
2 lines and a diamond. All right. Well, that's really, really good. But nobody saw what I really drew. A W on top of an M. I want you to think about this for a second. We're not even nearly conscious of everything that the brain is taking in right now. If you listen, you know, you're tuning it out, and if you listen, there's some kind of noise from the air conditioner or something up here. Those of y'all that are drinking or eating something, your taste buds are processing it. As you're taking notes, your body is processing the pressure that you're putting on the pencil. Plus, you're listening to everything I'm saying, plus trying to write it down. Plus, you're watching me as I am doing things illustrating this. Plus, you're taking in also any kind of extraneous stimuli from your fellow students. And that's just the beginning of everything that your brain's processing right now. And then I show you this and ask you what you see. The brain has so much that it's taking in that it tries to find ways to simplify life. It tries to find ways to simplify the information that it's taking in. And looking at straight, smooth flowing lines are much easier to perceive than to say, I wonder if that is really a W and an M. You're saying it's a lot easier to think of that as two lines with a diamond. And so, good continuation and direction says smooth flowing lines are much more readily perceived than choppy broken lines. And these are all grouping principles of Gestalt. Well, now we have the principle of closure. Now, whole objects are much easier to perceive than trying to perceive individual parts of that object. Now, for example, I know that many of y'all have seen the little connect the dots that children have. These little books that connect the dots. Now, as a grown-up, you can look at those dots without even connecting the lines and say, look at that, that's going to be a duck. Or look at that, that's going to be a house. And your mind, your brain automatically connects those dots because it's easier to perceive a whole object than it is to try and perceive each little bitty part individually. Now, I've got some examples here because, see, what happens is the brain fills in the missing parts. The brain fills in the spaces, okay? For example, if you'll look at this, you will probably say that's a triangle with a hole in the middle of it. And see, we're filling in the missing pieces here, but really, it's a part of a triangle that has this part cut out, and it's got this part cut out, but when you line them up, it looks like a circle. Circle doesn't exist there, but we fill in the missing pieces in the brain, we fill in the spaces, and we create a circle there. Here's an easier one. It's a panda. Now, again, we see it as a complete object, but here we go. We've got this part missing, and this part missing, and this part missing, but yet we're seeing a complete object. This is my favorite. This is my absolute favorite. I love this. We perceive two triangles in this picture, when really it's three Pac-Man and three incomplete triangles. But the way we have lined them up, it looks like two complete triangles, and yet there is no triangle there.
I see 3 triangles. I don't know.
Well, here's 3, yeah, but I'm talking about the big triangles. Here you've got 2 very big triangles. And when you said there are 3 triangles, there are not. This is not a triangle. You're filling in the missing spaces. And you're filling in the missing space there. See? Actually, there's not a real triangle on that page. But your mind is connecting lines together, filling in the spaces, and making triangles. I think that's the neatest picture. Okay? Everybody with me? All right, good, good. Well, here's another one. This is pretty easy. Again, it's a circle but it's not a circle. We fill in the space and make it a circle. IBM, their logo is made up of dashes, but they're placed in a way we fill in the spaces, and then all of a sudden we've got the letters IBM. Now, I'm going to show a slide, and it's very, very, very easy to read, okay? It's not like written in German, it's not really, really hard words. It's very easy words, and I'm going to pick somebody, and I'm going to ask you to read exactly what you see in that triangle. Like I said, it's not complicated, all right? Now, I'm going to ask you to read this, okay? Read it out loud so everybody can hear. And all you do is read what are the words within the triangle, okay? And read them way out loud so everybody can hear, okay? Here we go. What's it say?
Paris in the spring.
Okay? Paris in the spring. Very good. Thank you. Now, we'll see what it really says. It says Paris in the spring. Our brain has a lot of stuff it's processing. Now, between the fact that that's a fairly common statement and the fact that the brain wants to throw out extraneous objects that it doesn't need, it just glanced right over the insignificant words and said, okay, I've got this, Paris in the spring. When actually it said something different. The brain wants to try and keep things as uncomplicated as possible because of everything it's doing. I mean, it's even monitoring the temperature in this room right now, among the other things that I said a few minutes ago. So, Paris in the spring, in the spring, okay? Now, in a minute, I'm going to do some depth perception things, but let's see what else I want to do first. Well, depth perception is the ability to perceive distance. It's not actually seeing how deep something is. It's actually perceiving distance. And we have different cues that our brain uses to help us figure out this distance, okay? There's 4 principles here. One's called interposition, relative size, texture gradient, and linear perspective. Interposition is the closer objects are, the more they're going to block objects that are far away. Great. Now, I'm looking right now at 3 students. Because you are slightly blocking my complete view of her, and she's blocking my complete view of you, this actually helps my brain compute distance. Because the closer objects will block us being able to see more of the objects that are farther away. That helps us to perceive distance. It's called interposition. Then we've got relative size. When you have two or more objects, the closer objects are going to appear larger. Now, I'm going to draw two objects right here, two stick men, right here, all right? Then we've got now, these are on the same board here, but because I drew this one larger, this one now appears to be in the background. Because closer objects, larger objects are perceived to be closer than the smaller objects when they are assumed to be the same size. When two objects are perceived to be the same size, the one that is larger is pardon me, assumed to be closer. Texture gradient. There is a graduated change in the grain of the visual field as distance increases. There is a graduated change in the grain of a visual field as distance increases. All right. If I'm at a Razorback game, I'm sitting in the stands, the person that is directly in front of me, I can see all the details. I can read what's on the back of their t-shirts. I can read if there's a tag on their hat, what the tag says. I can look at the cup, read what they're drinking in the cup. That's close. Now, as I look down the rows all the way to the bottom, I'm not able to really see all the detail nearly as accurately. If I look across the field, I can basically only see little dots, okay? And the farther away that the objects are, the more grainy they're going to look. And so if we took that stadium and expanded it even farther away, instead of looking like little dots, it looked like little bitty grains. There, I couldn't perceive any detail. It's just a sea of dots, okay? That's texture gradient. Now, the last one is probably the easiest. Linear perspective. As distance increases, parallel lines tend to converge. At least they look like they're converging. If I am standing on some railroad tracks, and those railroad tracks go straight down for 20 miles, and I'm looking at them, those railroad tracks look like they are getting closer and closer and closer together as I look farther and farther and farther down, until they actually look like they come together. Now, those railroad tracks are the exact same distance way down there that I'm standing on. Because if they weren't, we'd have a lot of train wrecks. But my eyes are trying to figure out distance. And so, if it just continued parallel lines all the way down, it wouldn't give me any kind of a clue about the distance. And so, because of linear perspective, these parallel lines look like they're going closer and closer and closer together. as the distance gets farther and farther and farther away. This is a life preserver. This is a very, very easy question. What is the shape of the life preserver on the screen? It's easy.
Circle.
All right, we got a circle. How many agree it's a circle? All right, good deal. All right. Except it's an oval. And now that I tell you it's an oval, and I'll prove it to you by showing you the inside of this preserver, now your brain will accept it. This is called shape constancy. You looked at that picture and I told you it was a life preserver. Your brain says life preserver, circle. Easy. Life preserver, circle. All right, and I said, what's the shape? And you said it's a circle. Now the eyes are saying, wait a minute, no. This is an oval. But the brain says, no, I'm smart. I run this body. I've got all the information. Life preservers are circular. So eyes, you are wrong. It's a circle. And the eyes say, no, I really think it's an oval. No, it's not. It's a circle. This is called shape constancy. That you're going to perceive something as a certain shape, basically no matter what the input is, unless you are told differently. All right. Your brain says this is the shape it should be, and unless something comes along and makes it change its mind, say, oh, that is a circle. I mean, that is an oval. Imagine that. Well, now it had to take the time to look and say, oh, yeah, ovals do not appear in a circle. So, yeah, that is an oval. Shape constancy. We're going to maintain the idea that an object is a certain shape because we've been taught that. And if it varies, we're basically going to assume it's that shape unless something proves it otherwise. Apparent motion. Here, there appears to be motion where none exists. My husband loves Christmas decorations. I don't know how many of y'all remember Jennings Osborne. He's the one that used to have like 1 million lights on his house on Cantrell. My husband's goal in life is to try and get to Jennings Osborne's record and probably surpass it. Last year, I think he had 60,000 lights in our front yard. This year, he says, we're going to try and top that. Some of the lights appear to have motion. Like, we might have a light where we have icicles, and the icicles, you can see them running around this object that he's got them on. And they're racing down this area. Now the fact is, they're not moving at all. That light is not moving at all. As one comes on, when it goes off, the next one comes on. And when it goes off, the next one comes on. And so now it looks like you've got motion where it's not. That's an illusion. Also, cartoons. Cartoons there has to be, especially in the old days, they had to have somebody who had the patience of Job. Because the way cartoons are made, they draw a picture. And let's say that you all probably don't even know who Bugs Bunny is, but let's say we've got Bugs Bunny, and one of the things he liked to do was eat carrots. Now, to get this picture of him eating a carrot in a cartoon, they have to draw a picture where the carrot's here, and then here, and 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 here. And all those individual pictures, and then when you flip them very quickly and make them go quickly in sequence, it looks like that. That's motion that's not really there, but it feels like it. It appears to be for us. Then we've got attention, and this is where we direct our focus on an object. Divided attention is when we're able to process more than one stimulation at the same time. Okay, so I think probably mothers are the best in the world to illustrate divided attention, because they can be on the phone exchanging a recipe, cooking, and answering questions. You know, like the baby comes in and says, "Mommy, I'm hungry, can I have some milk?" Yeah, you know, and she's pouring milk, cooking, and talking to somebody at the same time, and succeeding. You can have divided attention, and you can take in multiple forms of stimulation and process them at the same time. Now, there's a thing called cocktail party effect. Cocktail party phenomenon. This came about from parties where, when people were standing around talking, and we'd be talking, and all of a sudden I'd hear my name from across the room. Then I couldn't, you know, someone just mentioned my name, and I'm trying to figure out who it was and what they're saying, but the fact is, I'm hearing and understanding much more information that I'm consciously aware of. This illustration here demonstrated by being at a party and talking with someone, and you hear your name across the room. Here, you're hearing things that you're really not aware of, even though you're not consciously aware of, you're processing it. Like I was saying a minute ago, we're processing the noise here of the air conditioner. And even though we're hearing it, and you're probably hearing it now a lot more because I've brought your attention to it, we're hearing it, we're processing it, but we're not that aware of it unless we bring it out and call it out on it. I'm going to show you something in a minute. It's going to be in a red box. Now, I'm going to give you 15 seconds, and you're to count all the F's in that box. Very simple, very, very simple. I'll open it up. I'll show it to you. You have 15 seconds, and every F that's in the red box, you count it. I'm gonna try and get it real quick where you can see it better. Okay, this is it. Okay, there we go. Oh, golly, shoot. I hope nobody saw that. Okay, just in case. How many only saw 3? How many only saw 4? How many saw 5? How many saw 6? How many did not see 6 until it said there were 6? There are 6 F's in this. Had I not screwed it up, it would have been easier for you to process. Let's see, wrong one.
She kept turning it off when we got lost.
We'll use this one. There we go. Now, here's the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, and there's the 6th one. The easy ones are the big words. But you've got 1, 2, and then there's one of those little smaller words that the brain doesn't want to think about. And he sees it, but skips over it. So there's 3, and there's number 4, and there's number 5, and here's number 6. So we've got words there, and our brain sees them. But again, it's trying to uncomplicate things. So, even though it sees it, it passes it very quickly so that it can take in the more important stuff. Okay, now, I'm going to show you a quick video. I think it's probably a minute long. Your job, your assignment, is to watch the players, and they are going to be passing the basketball. You're to count how many times the players in white t-shirts are going to pass the basketball to each other. Okay, so, this would be 1. Okay, so there's 2 teams, black shirts, white shirts. You're to count how many times the white shirts pass the basketball to each other.
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count?
Okay. How many passes?
I counted 15.
Do what?
I said 15.
15?
15.
Okay.
16.
16? Okay.
15.
15? How many of y'all saw the gorilla? 3 of you. Four of you. Let's show you the gorilla.
I was supposed to come and watch these shirts during the time, right?
The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla?
I was too busy looking at the white shirts.
When did the gorilla come on? Within the time they were scared of all.
This video is from Search
Because I was
Engine
screwing it up,
Science
I'll show you one more time.
I'm like, when did the gorilla? I didn't see it. I guess I was supposed to have.
That's because you were so focused on the passes that even though you saw the gorilla, you didn't.
This video is from research by Daniel Silas and Christopher Shabri and is copyrighted. It is available for use in talks, training, and teaching on DVDs from Bizcog Productions. Learn more at theinvisiblegorilla.com.
Well, the next thing, I'm going to show you a picture. I want you to look at that picture and tell me if you think, by just looking at this picture, if it's a person that you could trust. Okay? Just somebody you could trust? You say no?
He looked
Well,
unsure
if-
himself, so
do what?
I don't trust him.
Do what?
He looked unsure.
Unsure? Well, the real thing is, maybe it's because he's a liar. L-I-A-R. If you tilt your head over to the right, it's Will Barron. And then we'll see if there's anything else about here. Nope, that looks like that's it. Okay. The perception chapter can be a lot of fun because you find out that you're seeing things that you didn't know you were seeing, or it helps you to understand how you're seeing things. With that said, when y'all come back on Tuesday, we're going to start the last chapter of this for this unit. So we're moving along. Is there any questions about anything we talked about today? No questions? Any comments? Any criticisms?